To the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samueli. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, and it is now 10 a.m. on the East Coast of the United States on a Monday, which can only mean one thing. Everybody, pencils down, coffee pots down, put that sandwich down, whatever you're doing, put it down. It is now time for our weekly joint live stream. So everyone has to focus. And of course, how are you, Peter?
Well, watching the news, still trying to figure out what it all means.
That's right. Yes.
The Trump's Knesset thing, he didn't disappoint in the terms of theatrics and content. Quite horrifying, I would say. But we'll talk.
I wouldn't have said that. I mean, that wasn't my take. I mean, and we can go through the speech. My take was that he went there and he said, "Yeah, you did fantastically. You've won a great victory, and now it's over. Now it's a time for peace." That was his message. I think that was it.
Well, let's see if
I Trump am now vested in this peace.
We'll see if they listen.
We'll see if you listen. Okay, well let's go through this. Let's
What did you think of Trump asking the Knesset to, or he was directing it to the president of Israel to give Netanyahu a pardon?
I thought that it
Why
was.
do you give a pardon if the investigation isn't over? Why do you give a pardon if there isn't a verdict? I mean,
I thought it was just hilarious. It just shows the extent to which
I
the
didn't
United
think
States
it was
regards Israel.
hilarious.
It regards Israel as simply an adjunct of the United States. It just shows a total lack of any kind of respect for Israeli sovereignty. So yeah, it's like you address the governor of, say, Arkansas and say, "Hey, why don't you pardon this person?" I mean, it's I'm the president. I don't have power, over state crimes, but do it. I mean, you know, it just showed a certain lack of respect for Israel, but I think it's
Whose idea that
perfectly
was?
appropriate in the circumstances.
Whose idea do you think it was?
His.
Hmm. Miriam Adelson was in the gallery. And what
Yes,
if it was her?
he even referred to her.
Yeah. What if it
That,
was
that,
her
that
idea?
that's right. But it's also interesting whenever he brings up the Adelsons. It's always a
Here
kind.
we go with one of our
Here we
comments.
go. Here we go. Yes, exactly. Here we go.
Here we go.
But whenever he brings up the Adelsons, it's always a kind of a backhanded compliment, which is that they were always on my, they were always, calling me up, always wanting to have a meeting with me. I'm kind of busy. I'm the president of the United States. I got a full plate, but they're always pestering me. So it's like, yeah, I mean, they're fantastic people, but it's a kind of a backhanded compliment and gives you an idea exactly how the Israel lobby operates. I mean, it
But
is
they get what they want, don't they?
even, yeah, they eventually, but this is an interesting one. Did they get what they want here? Because if we go back to what happened today, we had that long preamble by Netanyahu, which was nothing more than just heaping praise upon.
Sorry, I skipped it, George. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but that was just heaping praise after praise after praise. Um, uh, but that was just simply, he was really just simply buttering up Trump. Trump didn't do the same thing to him. I mean, whenever he said anything nice about him, I thought it was always he would immediately do a kind of a backhanded compliment, just like he said, "Your speech was really, really long, BB. Now I'm running late for my appointment in Egypt." Um, and so, anyway, let's just take a look at the. Always do this. I
Don't
don't.
do it to yourself, George. Don't do it to yourself. I'm not good going solo. I need you.
No,
Okay.
no, 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 no.
Are you that pissed off with me already?
No, no. But it is true that whenever I don't make this mistake when I'm
Don't,
doing
George.
solo, but I click,
Calm down. Calm down. With argument among friends, right?
exactly. But but for some reason I click off the camera when I'm with you. I don't know why. But anyway, let me continue with screen sharing. So here's the Trump having the Israeli flag backdrop. Um, so here he is. Years in darkness and captivity. 20 courageous hostages are returning to the glorious embrace of their families, and it is glorious. 28 more precious loved ones are coming home at last to rest in this sacred soil for all of time. And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still.
He obviously didn't write this.
Right, he didn't, but he did a lot of ad libbing as well, which is why the
Yeah.
speech went on for more than an hour. I mean, it was supposed to be much shorter. Land that is finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity.
Yeah, the entire history of Israel is war. Okay.
It is. Um, on the other hand, you have to then say that's his message. That's what he wants to see done. That's why I think it's just so unlikely that Netanyahu in 2 weeks' time can just suddenly start resuming the
Well,
campaign.
that's the in art for our generation, we used to call that the $64,000 question. And George and I have been grappling with this for about what do you like 10 days now,
Something like that. Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. So this is unknowable at this point. I see no reason why they're going to stop their plan to
Because of
completely.
Trump.
This because this is all meaningless to me. I mean, I am glad all captives, though he doesn't mention Palestinians that were put into captivity during the same
No,
2 years.
he
He doesn't mention them
doesn't.
at all. Okay,
Doesn't.
Western media has no interest in seeing pictures of them, for obvious reasons because they look like victims from Auschwitz. But if, if you're joining us for the first time, my thesis in all of this is that the plan is meaningless. It's not a plan for peace. It's a plan for subjugation. It's a plan to move the goalposts out again and again. We've been watching this since Oslo and even further back. And it was maybe getting diminishing returns for the Israelis. They're going to recalibrate. They need a pause. They have other things they have on their mind, Iran, for example. But there is no indication, there is zero, there is scant evidence that this is going to go beyond phase one. That's
Well,
my until I'm disproven, I'm going to stick with it.
well, the evidence is that after this meeting, Trump went to Egypt. He's on his way to Egypt now for this very big conference. Now, the whole point of this conference, this peace conference in Egypt, is to begin the implementation of phase two. I mean, it's not just to have a chit chat; it's to implement phase two. In other words, you've got to start moving, and we've got to start putting together a framework for moving to phase two. No, that's the reason for having that conference in Egypt.
But if
Otherwise,
I could, but
then
if I could
there'd be
interject,
a
George,
ceasefire and an exchange. Otherwise, then we were not moving. That's the whole point of this
but
conference in
I,
Egypt.
I'll take that on face value, of course. Okay. But what we don't know, and we'll probably find out very quickly, to what degree does Netanyahu and his government have a veto over things? We don't know that. We don't.
Right. We don't know that, but that's why I think it's worth listening to what Trump is saying, because Trump is saying, I think that this is it. You have won, and then now it is over. That's what he's saying to me. In other words, if it's not over, then you're going to have me to reckon with. And I
Well,
think that was his.
okay. Okay. Let's listen to the man himself.
This is not only the end of a war. This is the end of a age of terror and death, and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God. It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of
what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East. I want to express my gratitude to a man of exception.
All right. So then
Thank you.
we go on. Let's see.
They're taking a victory lap before everything is said and done. I mean, I don't see this as the end of anything. I see it, if anything, a pause.
Well, it's Trump. You see, the question of the victory lap is that Trump is telling them that you have won, and that's it. Now, I don't, I'm not at all sure that Netanyahu thinks that he has won, but Trump is telling him, you have won, take your winnings and call it a day. I mean, I think
Well,
that's it.
then
He's the one who, Trump was taking a victory lap, not Israel.
There we go. There we go. Good. I'm with you on this one. He's taking a victory lap. I agree with you. Okay, there's no indication that the Israelis see this as anything that has been bookended here. Okay, at all.
Well, I mean, there's no indication. Israel is echoing Trump. Now, what they'll do tomorrow or the day after, I don't know. But this is clearly the message that they're getting from Trump, which is it is over. Okay, and I don't want to see any more of this.
What would give your position more validity, strength, is if he said in the floor of the Knesset, "It's over. You started up again. No arms from me." Okay, then I would be say that. I mean, then I would be agreeing with you. Okay,
right, we don't get that. Okay. He's not. Well, he's not going to say that. He's not going to say that in the Knesset, but nonetheless,
3,000-year conflict. No, this has only been a conflict because of the advent of the state of Israel.
Right, but what do you expect him to say in the Knesset? He's a guest at the Knesset, but he tells them at the Knesset it is over. And that, I think, is the important thing. He didn't say, oh, well, you have to go on fighting against Hamas. You have to go on fighting against terrorism. You have to go and slay all your enemies. He says, no, it is over. The war is finished and done.
George, is this an address towards his donors back in the United States?
I would doubt it. I don't think there was anything in this speech that they would be that happy with. I mean, I think... I mean, if you're say a Ben Gvir or a Smotrich, I don't think that they're particularly happy with his message. But anyway, here he goes on.
But isn't it true though that can you imagine the same? Let's assume maybe the same documents, we had everything the same, but you had somebody out there that was, in the opinion of everybody, all powerful in the Middle East. They took a big hit, didn't they? Didn't they take a big hit? Boy, oh boy.
Now listen to this. He's talking about Iran here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they took a big hit. He says that they took a big hit. And then he goes on.
And from one side, from the other. And you know it would be great if we could make a peace deal with him. But I think that's me. Would you be happy with that? Wouldn't it be nice? Okay.
He says to him, would you be happy with a peace deal with them? You know, and the applause is not exactly great.
This is getting to the point of just being a sick comedy. So you want to negotiate now? Okay, well, or this whole phase one could have easily been done a year ago. Okay, I mean, how is anybody supposed to take any of this seriously?
I don't understand why. Well, the reason it's being taken seriously because it is over. I mean, it is over now.
Okay, the guns you
are
can
silent.
Say those words.
Just to say, oh, it's nothing.
But we don't know yet.
How can you not take it seriously? Everyone's now been released. That's phase one. Now, what happens in phase two? But you can't take it. You have to take it seriously.
You and I are going to be treading water until we get to phase two, and then we're going to figure out which way it's going to go.
That's right. But
that's you and I.
You can't just simply say, "Oh, this is nothing." I mean, it's just that.
It is nothing.
That doesn't make any sense. That makes no sense.
Okay, let me reiterate because again, we end up agreeing a lot more than we appear. You and I agreed almost instantly that we thought phase one would be successful. Mm-hmm. It would come to fruition. Right. Okay, we agreed with that from the get-go. Okay, and now it's happening. My problem is what comes next. And I don't see, other than just words.
What comes next is this meeting.
Okay, where are the Palestinians in all of this?
Well, the Palestinian Authority will be there. Mahmoud
Oh,
Abbas will be in a
I'm
meeting in
sure
Egypt.
you're not singing the praises of the Palestinian Authority.
Well, okay, but he is going to be there. But the problem clearly is this. Hamas has been an absolute disaster, and I think we have to say Hamas has been a disaster for the people of Gaza. It's hard to say, oh well, yeah, now have a seat at the table, because no one. It's not even up to the Americans. None of Egypt, Saudi Arabia, no one wants Hamas there. They're sick to death of Hamas. They think Hamas has been an absolute catastrophe for the people of Gaza. They didn't like what they did. Obviously, didn't like what they did on October the 7th. Knew that it would rain down horror upon the people. So they don't really have a seat at the table. I mean, that's it. That's why they don't.
Well, I'm
They don't
not
want-
talking about Hamas.
right.
Okay.
So, but Mahmoud Abbas will be there. I mean, he is
Okay,
there. He has been
wow.
invited. He will be there.
Thank God for sloppy seconds.
Well, okay, but what else? Who else is going to be there? I mean, what else? What more can you want? I mean, at least there'll be a representative of the Palestinians.
Well, I mean,
there.
maybe part of phase two is that somehow, under some mechanism, the Palestinian people could present a slate of a dozen.
Well, presumably, I mean, I don't.
If you were interested in what they have to say, you would do
Right.
that.
Well, but I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to now go for this. First of all, there's going to be this Palestinian technocrats. I don't know who they are, but there's the Palestinian technocrats
Well,
who will be
take
running day-to-day affairs. I mean, that's all they're going to be doing, day-to-day affairs. And then above that will be the Board of Peace chaired by
Yeah,
Trump.
we had a lot of hope for the Palestinian Authority. George, Blue Sky wrote a message here. I'd like you to read it because I think that
no one can see the future. Neither one of you, correct? We understand, Peter, that you must be the most cynical, but I appreciate George's slightly optimistic viewpoint. All right, well, thank you. That's
Yeah,
fair.
well,
That's
let's sum it
reasonable.
up. That's fair.
I'm sort of surprised to be in the optimist camp. I'm usually kind of a pessimist.
George, who knows? It could one event, one thought could have flipped the whole thing. I don't know. I mean,
Right.
for posterity to decide. Okay,
Right.
I guess, George. I mean, Trump's hot air and bellowing like this just it really puts me off. Okay, because so much more needs to be done. I mean, these kind of negotiations. Serious negotiations. I don't see the Israelis at all being serious about this. Okay, and it's interesting the power dynamic. Trump versus Netanyahu and vice versa. It's still there's so many questions. Who's pushing what? From that speech, I don't see that Trump, like we had talked about yesterday. I didn't see him asserting his authority. I was hoping for more. Okay.
Yeah, I thought that the thing with Bibi when he said, "Give him a pardon," come on, just give him a pardon. I thought that was a wonderful kind of there's a kind of condescension there. Yeah, I'm putting in a good word for you. And then notice also, I mean, well, we'll come to that where he talked to the leader of the opposition, and then he turned to Pepe. He's a nice guy, Bibi. He's a nice guy. You want to work?
Yeah,
with that was all very much a kind of condescension.
Bluntly, who put him up to it? Was it Trump's original thought? I doubt it.
Why wouldn't it be?
I said, Miriam Edelson was in the gallery. Did she say to Trump? She was on Air Force One, apparently. I could be wrong about that.
Right. No,
Didn't she say, Donald, could I just have a minute with you, please? Okay. Come on, give him a pardon.
No. Trump is Trump. I mean, he does these things spontaneously. He's somebody who's very good.
No other couple visited the White House more than that couple.
Right, they go to the White House. When it comes to these kinds of spontaneous actions, that's Trump. Trump does these things. He's somebody who he's a people person. He's been doing meetings all his life, and he knows how the dynamics and how to play one person off against another. That's what he does. He's not a book person, but he is a people person.
Explanation, but probably not.
The Blue Skies. It was good that Trump got applauded in the Knesset, better than Bibi getting applauded in Congress. Trump is unique and unpredictable. Anyway, let's go. Let's go on a little bit more. But this is kind of again interesting when he's still back here talking about Iran. So he said, "Wouldn't it be great if we got a deal with Iran?" And then he goes on.
Because I think they want to. I think they're tired. Somebody said, "Sir, they're starting their nuclear program again." I said, "Let me tell you something. They're not starting anything. They want to survive. The last thing they want to do is start digging holes again in mountains that just got blown up and start. They're not doing. They want to survive. Okay, but I think we have a chance. Steve, you and
So notice that what he's done here is said, no, they are not starting a
Yeah,
nuclear
well, I
program. So
think,
in other words, don't start telling me, oh, they're restarting their nuclear
and
program.
this can be interpreted in two different ways. That this is actually clever. Okay, number one, you can say, Trump is taking his victory lap. No doubt about it. Okay. And it's going to extend, I guess, what is happening right now as we speak in Cairo. He wants that moment. Okay. And it's like, he's looking at his winnings on the table and thinking, I'm going to take my winnings off the table. I mean, doesn't get better than this. Why should I get involved in another possibly endless war in the Middle East? Okay. He could be doing that, or it could be another deceitful negotiating tactic. Okay, that we saw earlier. I have a long, you don't need to have a long memory to remember what happened. Okay, with the strike on Iran. I think you can look at it in two
Well,
different ways, and maybe he has right.
he accept that this has been his consistent message since the 12-day war in the summer. He said that plan, the program is at an end. They cannot resuscitate the program, and that's it. There's not, he has never given any indication that Iran is trying to cheat or Iran is trying to revive the program. He's consistently said there's no they can't resuscitate it. That program is over. And then he said here, this is the last thing they would want to do. They took a big hit. They don't want to take another hit. So it's going to be very difficult. I mean, of course, anything is possible, but it's going to be very difficult for him to completely reverse himself. I said that they couldn't revive their program. Yeah, well, they have actually revived it, and I think it is time to start
Yeah, well,
bombing again.
we heard in the spring a deal could be made. Okay, and you
Right,
and I talked about
right,
it.
right.
You and I talked about
They were
it.
working, except
We
that
talked about it at great length.
that's right. We
Okay.
talked about the deal, but this time he's actually already said. He said that hey, this is at an end. Whereas when he was talking, he was only talking vaguely about a deal. Everything that we were talking about was based on anonymous news sources, anonymous news that suggested that we were close to an agreement. Turned out we weren't close to an agreement, but here he said explicitly, "Hey, it's over." Um,
Well, the
so,
JCPOA is essentially it's sunset. So now Trump has the opportunity. He has a blank slate. Let's see what he writes on it. What
right.
is that an indication of what he said in the Knesset? Like I said, there's I think a number of ways that you can interpret. George, I just don't trust him. I'm sorry, I just don't. I just don't. Okay.
The point that I think is important. I mean, just simply saying that he is in with in Netanyahu's pocket. You can see from this speech, and we'll continue with that. He's got other fish to fry.
Well,
He's got
I don't. I
the
think that
Gulf states.
he's got other fish to fry. You're absolutely right.
Right. Yeah,
But, I
exactly.
mean,
So he's got a
who's in whose pocket? That is a absolutely. I tend to think it is just so. It's so intermeshed, and there's so many different forces and influences involved. I think when people just say Trump's in Netanyahu's pocket, I find it very simplistic. It's not very
because
explanatory.
it's not because it isn't true. It really
It's
isn't true.
far more complicated
Right.
than that.
But what complicates it is the Gulf states that he really likes them. He feels a real empathy with them. They kind of talk his kind of language, and they are absolutely enmeshed now in this deal. I mean, this deal in Gaza, they are absolutely firmly within this. And he says it, and he talks about this later in the speech. They are the ones who are going to finance the reconstruction of Gaza.
It sounds like he's making a real estate pitch all the time. Keep going.
Right.
I think, Jared, come on.
All right. So okay. Let's go on a little bit. Um,
Okay, I'm not getting any volume.
no,
Oh,
it's I'm
you're looking at
adjusting it. Yes.
you're looking at the time codes. Okay.
And Israel's security will no longer be threatened in any way, shape, or form. So Israel, with our help, has won all that they can by force of arms. You've won. I mean, you've won. Now it's time to translate these victories against terrorists on the battlefield into the ultimate prize of peace and prosperity for the entire Middle East. It's about time you were able to enjoy the fruits of your labor, Mr. Opposition Leader. I said he's a very nice opposition leader. I think. No, he's a nice man. Phoebe, he's a nice man. Good.
Like I said, George, he's saying again. It's very interesting. In a way, he even could even say begging, "Take your winnings, take your
That's what
winnings."
he's saying to Israel. Yeah. That's it.
And you know what? There's nothing about in the history of Israel that is satisfied with its winnings.
What we do, what we do know about Israel is that Israel can be brought to heel when an American president wants to bring it to heel. That's it, and we've seen that many times in the past. That when a U.S. president applies the brakes, Israel stops. We saw it with Eisenhower, saw it with Nixon, we saw it with Reagan, we saw it with George H.W. Bush. You if you apply the brakes, Israel will stop. So that's why when you say, well, what's the evidence? The evidence is, yeah, if an American president says and that, hey, thus far and no further, you're not doing this, then you apply pressure, it works. And so that's why I think that you know
and
you
that thesis will be validated if phase two has
if
any
phase
meaning.
two if phase two goes into effect.
Then I would
Um,
agree with you, but not until then.
Well, no, that's right. Well, I mean, but obviously we're gonna have to see. But nonetheless, but that's why the phase two begins today. That's the whole point of the meeting in Egypt, which is and that's why they wanted that meeting. They wanted that meeting was just boom. We move towards phase two immediately. It's not just somehow down the road. Um, and 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 as we'll see in the speech, he does emphasize this thing. I am the chairman of the board, the board of peace. But I thought also what was interesting there with that bit with the leader of the opposition was he's kind of saying, "Hey, there's a nice guy. I wouldn't mind working with him. He kind of be a nice change. Working with the leader of the opposition. I don't have to deal with you anymore." I think that was the message.
I hadn't, I
He's a good
hadn't,
guy.
I hadn't read that, but it's possible.
Um, yeah, all right. Let's see.
Nah, very nice guy. Well, see, now you can be a little bit nicer, baby, because you're not at war anymore, baby. But only by embracing the.
All right, so you're not at war anymore, BB. And then let's see. Let's go on a little bit further.
Really like Israel. I'll tell you what, and they like Israel a lot more today than they did even 5 weeks ago. Like you've made a lot of, you've come back, you've come back strong because it was getting to be a little nasty out there in the world, and ultimately the world wins. You can't beat the world. Oh, I would say to Bibi, it's now time and he understood it better than anybody. Because ultimately, the world's a very big place. And I've said a lot. I said, this piece of land is very small. It's unbelievable when with that tiny, you look at a map even of just not the world, the Middle East, and you have this little dot. And think of what you've done. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but this is prelude to.
It really is. It really is amazing.
But the world is loving. The world is loving Israel again. And I said to him, the world is big and it's strong. And Ron, ultimately, the world wins. And we don't have to worry about that now. But there was getting to be a
Yeah, well, if the world wins, why isn't there a Palestinian state? I mean, come on, George.
Well, you got step by step. No, I mean, you can't. You're not going to get a Palestinian state tomorrow. But what he's saying, the world wins. Hey, everybody hates you. That's what he's saying. Everybody
Maybe the
hates
world
you.
would stop hating them if they let have a Palestinian state.
Well,
That'd be
that's okay, sure. I mean, but that's look, you have to go step by step. You can't get everything.
George, they've been doing step by step almost our entire lives. Okay.
Okay, but nonetheless, I
And
don't
when
think,
did
I don't remember any an American president telling Israel, you know what, the world hates you. The world's a very big place, and you cannot fight the world. That's something that I've never heard an American president say that.
Yeah,
You
but again,
fight the world.
Trump is a lot of words. Okay, a
Okay.
lot of
I
words.
mean, but what more? What more? He's not going to go in and say, you know what? We're going to set up the two-state solution tomorrow. We're going to begin,
Well,
and that's, he's not going to do that.
if Israeli prime ministers listen ultimately what the American president has to say, then why doesn't it happen? Okay.
Well, because what happens is that American presidents all too often don't persevere. They let it go, then
Well, there
a
we
new
go.
man comes in.
There we go. That's
Okay.
the key, and this is what
But
we talked about yesterday. George and I had a rough consensus after a long one yesterday. It was a binge. Okay, if if he perseveres and he keeps the pressure on, then there's a glimmer of hope that at least the carnage won't come back.
right.
And I'm on board for that. Okay, at the end of the carnage, other things we can discuss, we'll probably disagree with, but but I mean, the carnage is stopped. That is something we should all be happy about.
Well,
Okay?
that's right. But then, because if you look through um, history, I mean, it's like why Israel always managed to slip out of difficult situations, because there was a crisis in Washington. I think had Nixon not got bogged down with Watergate, I think Nixon would have pushed for the implementation of the Rogers Plan on Israel. But then he got preoccupied with Watergate, and then Kissinger essentially took over Middle East foreign policy, and I think he pushed it in a very different direction.
Very different.
Then and you think of Jimmy Carter. I think if Jimmy Carter had won in 1980, I think things could have been very different. Because he did put pressure on Menachem Begin. Begin didn't really want to do that deal.
Of course.
Leaving Sinai, he was pushed by Carter. I think if George H.W. Bush had won the election in '92, he'd have pursued the Madrid process. But then, Bill Clinton abandoned all of that.
Trump's got a year, and I think that one way or another, George, the kind of conversation we're having now will be resolved in a couple of weeks. Okay, one way or another.
Yeah, well, maybe a couple of months. I think we're going to give it a little bit more time. Yeah,
a couple of months.
Yeah. Let's see.
The world wanted peace and Israel wanted peace. Everybody did. Everybody did. And what a victory it's been, right? What a victory it's been.
So he's kind of fobbing them up. Oh, you got a great victory, but that's it. You take what you've got and don't ask for anything more.
You could interpret that also because he speaks in such vague terms. It could just be hyperbole. I mean, I'd like to agree with you. I'd like to think that that's what it means, but we've known this guy for 10 years. He's wobbly on a lot
Right.
of things. Wobbly, okay?
All right.
And it's kind of pathetic because this is in such an important moment, okay? And it gets down to it. I think, I don't know if we used the word yesterday, but we're using it now, perseverance,
Right.
okay?
Right. Right. Um, yes. All right. Then.
Must be on restoring the fundamentals of stability, safety, dignity, and economic development so they can finally have the better life that their children really do deserve after all these decades of horror. I intend to be a partner in this effort in the sense that we're going to help and we're going to do something that became unbelievably popular. Everybody wants to be on it. It's called the Board of Peace. Okay, how about that? Is that a beautiful name? Like a board of peace.
Big, beautiful bill.
That's right. The
Well,
big board.
from my standpoint, every single nation involved has asked me to be the chair, and I'll tell you, I'm very busy. I didn't count on that, but you know what? If we do it, we'll do it right, and we have unbelievable power and wealth. Because you're going to need wealth. You're going to need wealth to rebuild things, and they have wealth like few people have wealth. I want to thank the Arab and Muslim nations for their commitment that they've made to support a safe rebuilding of Gaza, and beyond that, many Arab countries, very wealthy countries, that came up and said, we'll put up tremendous amounts of money to get rebuild Gaza. And I think that's going to happen. The power, they want dignity, they want to come forward and they want to say, and I want to say who they are because what they're doing is going to be, I think, something that you're going to be very impressed with, Bibi. And you need that. You need the kind of economic power that they have, and they want to see it work, and they want to see it be safe, and they want to see it be good for Israel too.
So he's here talking about this Arabs who are going to be rebuilding Gaza. They're going to rebuild it. That's going to be, they're going to pour in money. That means that Gaza's gone. That means Israel's not going to have Gaza anymore. The Arabs are going to put this money in. Now they're not going to put any money in unless Trump guarantees their investment. They're going to say, "Hey, what's the guarantee that Israel isn't going to destroy what we build?" And then Trump will say, "Hey, I guarantee it because otherwise."
Okay. I don't want to take any. I don't want to take any guarantees from Donald Trump. Okay, that's
Well,
like
then no one. Then it won't happen.
No. We talked about it yesterday. Hang on.
Mhm.
Take this to the United Nations Security Council. Okay, that's the collateral for me. Okay, and
I think they will. I think that will
have
happen.
the Russians and the Chinese and the Americans say, considering all of our differences, this one we're going to stay on board.
Right.
Okay, and it's going to be Trump that's going to be watching the Israelis. Okay, now I want some guarantees. Okay, I want some guarantees. That's one of them. Take it to the Security Council, have it binding. Okay,
I think that will happen.
my gut feeling is that the Chinese and the Russians will go along with it. They're
Yeah,
not going to be.
I think so too. Yeah, I think they'll go along with it. I think there will be. I mean, this treaty that they're going to sign today in Egypt. I mean, this is going to be a signing of a treaty. I think this is going to be the basis of a UN Security Council resolution.
I hope so.
I think it's going to pass unanimously. So then it'll be a binding resolution. And then yeah, I mean, no one's going to start putting any money in unless they say, hey, is our investment safe? Otherwise, they're going to lose this money. So I think that's clearly a part of it. I mean, that's why they're all of these Gulf states who love Trump now. They're going to say, yeah, we'll put money in, but you have to actually make sure that it doesn't get destroyed. So Trump is now, I say, thinking this is going to, these people, these friends of mine in the Gulf, they're going to rebuild Gaza. So as far as Israel goes, then Gaza's gone. I mean, then it doesn't belong to you anymore.
What's going to happen to the people there?
Well, according to the 20-point plan, and that's part of the treaty, no one will be forced to leave. That's part of the 20-point plan.
Well, we'll see.
It's said explicitly. No one will be forced to leave.
We'll see.
We will. Let's finish this.
Much money as it will be, and it's a lot, as you can see, it's a lot. For these countries, it's relatively little relative to their worth. It's really a lot of money like most people could never even conceive, but for these countries, it's not that much, especially because it ensures success and stability in the Middle East, which is what they want to see. So many of them will be with us in Egypt in a little while, I think. I'm not sure.
I wonder who's going to get the contracts.
Yes. His friends. I mean, these are people that these are friends of his. These are the people he likes. I mean, if you think these emirs, Trump gets on with them. I don't think Trump gets on terribly well with these fanatical Zionists, and they don't talk his kind of language. I mean, what do he and Smotrich have to discuss?
I think there has to be. I think there is a very important filter. Look at Steve Witkoff. He's a dyed-in-the-wool Zionist, but I tend to think that he speaks Trump's idiom when it comes to build, and you have to build. And in that way, it's easier for Trump to process because that's what he's all about in his mind, at least. Right. And if you're on that, he'd probably be far more interested in looking at a new port for Gaza, a new airport, But these will be PowerPoint presentations on a huge screen, but there will be no people. It'll just be buildings.
Right.
Okay. Right. And I don't think, given Trump's history as a real estate mogul, he wasn't interested in the renters. He was into, making a lot of money from renters. Right. He didn't, if it means tearing down this building and throwing out low income people, well, that's the law.
That's true.
I think that apply. He doesn't know anything about the Palestinian people.
No, he doesn't.
And the hostage, the release of Palestinians. Do you think he recognized any of the names?
No. He absolutely doesn't care about them. I mean, I don't think he even knows a great deal about Israel. To him, what he.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Israel for him is like, he sees Bibi Netanyahu. He sees, he's a tough guy. That's kind of what he thinks, and he thinks that's what Israelis are like. They're just all big,
Well,
tough guys.
What he probably thinks Israelis are like New York Jews or Jews.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Florida.
Yeah, maybe
like Florida Jews. Okay,
exactly. Like the Jews.
Donald Trump has been around Jewish people all his life.
Right, exactly, and he's worked with them, and they talk his language, and he talks their language.
Yeah,
and he talks their language. And in fact, when you watch him, his mannerisms. He has that New York Jewish mannerisms that those little jokes that he makes and everything. They're very like New York Jewish humor. So yeah, I think that's how he sees Israel.
And before anyone
American Jews
on us for saying that, it's I'm sure Donald Trump likes Woody Allen films. Diane Keaton, God bless her soul. I think she was totally miscast in Godfather.
Yes, she wasn't bad. I thought she wasn't bad.
Completely miscast.
Well, I think the point about her was that she, in the film, she was a kind of a waspy woman. I mean, I think that was.
I think that's what the point was. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That was. She's kind of waspy. She didn't really understand the Italian, because I think Michael wanted to get away from this tribalism. That's why he wanted to marry this waspy woman. But of course, the marriage turned out to be a disaster. Um, but it's the funny. I mean, now that you bring up Diane Keaton, she made many films. I mean, I actually was
I
thinking,
had
wow,
not
that's
realized how
yeah,
many
that
that
there
she
was
made.
many
And
films.
for
Pretty good
everybody here,
films.
this Diane Keaton was one of the leading marquees of our time, of our
Right,
generation, and she was like, yeah, she was the one of the big names. Okay, and
right,
this is
right.
all before social media. Okay,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she was a good actress. Okay, I just thought she was just miscast sometimes.
But because it's funny that because you're automatically thinking like I thought when I saw Diane Keaton died, and I hadn't been thinking about it for many years, and thought, oh yeah, Annie Hall, and you're now thinking,
Annie
oh
Hall,
yeah, Annie
Manhattan.
Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you realize, well, yeah, but she did a lot of other things than that. I mean, she did the, yeah, like the Godfather movies.
Looking for Mr. Goodbar, which was a
Looking for
pretty
Mr. Goodbar was a very
that was
different,
an edgy film for the
very
time.
edgy film, exactly. And then she was also in Reds, which I'd forgotten that she was in Reds.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think everybody in that film was miscast.
Yes, yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That's so funny that you mentioned that. Okay,
yeah.
because I love the idea of Reds. Remember it was a two-parter. It was long.
It was
Okay,
a very,
and I
very
thought
long film. Yeah.
everybody was awful in that film. I liked the film. I just didn't like the actors. Okay.
Yes, I know Warren Beatty was just
He
horrible.
was
And,
pathetic
yeah,
in that film.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, everybody. I had to break the ice a little bit here.
But
Go ahead.
it looks like yes. That's anyway. Let's that little break.
But I mean,
We,
going back, I mean, getting Trump's. I think his how he frames Israelis is very much within the confines of New York City Jews, South Florida Jews,
yeah,
okay, which are very important for New York life and
right,
Florida life. Okay,
right.
hugely important.
No, I think that's right. I think that's how that's why when he says, "Oh, I really like Israel," he's pretty much thinking, "Okay, well, I like Israel because I like these Jews I've been
Yeah,
dealing
it's
with
kind
my
of like
life."
New York with a lot of extra air conditioning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And these are people who've been working all these deals, these real estate deals in New York or in Florida. They're the people who've been working with all his life. So he said, "Yeah, I really like Israel." And then, well, who else do you like? Well, he likes these emirs in the Gulf. Hey, he looks at these palaces and think, hey, this
Yeah,
is
they're
exactly
into
what I want.
gold. They
Yeah,
like
I
gold.
think gold. Yeah, that's what I want. I want my Trump Plaza and the Trump hotels and
Who's
Trump
your
Grand.
who's your decorrator?
Yeah, that's what I want. So he talks their language. He just say, okay, they just wear these funny costumes. I mean, okay, you want to wear that? Fine, go ahead. You probably need it. It's very hot here in the desert. But other than that, he said, yeah, but they're talking my language. And so he says, okay, great. Well, we'll invest, huge sums of money, and that's again the way he talks. But I think that now that's what now he's committed to say, okay, well, this is it. I mean, I don't want to go on with this damn war anymore. Now let's invest and let's start building. And I think that's where he's at now. And I think that if the war continues, that's going to be a real problem for him. And I think I
It's
think he's
also
really
talking about a mindset that's very much part of the generation that Trump is part of. Is that if you just give people jobs and give them something to do,
yeah,
give them a better standard of living, it solves all problems. I
yeah.
think he truly believes that.
Yeah, I think he does. I think that is exactly what he thinks, and I think that whether it's his generation, but I think plenty of people think that. Well, I mean, all you do is
Well, it's very mid 20th century American thinking.
I agree. It's funny because if you remember that film In the Heat of the Night, a very good film. And remember, the thrust of the thing was that, well, he was this good guy who was murdered. But this good guy was just bringing jobs to the Deep South. They said, hey, he's bringing jobs. He's going to bring, jobs for lots of colored folk. Lots of colored folk are going to get jobs. And once they have jobs, then basically our problems are going to be solved. I mean, that was the thrust of the film. So they assumed he was killed by some white racist. In fact, he wasn't. It was something else entirely. But that was the mindset of everybody who was there. They shared the same view. Yeah, that's fantastic. He's going to bring a lot of money in, lots of job for colored folk, and then we're not going to have a race problem anymore. So yeah, I think that is Trump's mindset. And if you start telling him about the history of the Middle East, he will be very bored. I think he would just
Well, I mean, the thing is,
he wouldn't be
this,
interested. He's like, okay, well, that was in the past. What are we going to do tomorrow?
yeah, I mean, as a diversion, but I think it'll serve a point here. When Trump was in Anchorage, a meeting with Putin and his delegation, he was told about the travails of the Orthodox Church in Ukraine, and he was stunned by it.
Right.
What? They're banning the
Right.
church?
Right.
He had no idea
Yeah.
that was happening. And so, if that's the case, then we shouldn't be surprised that he's never heard of the Nakba, for example.
I'm sure he hasn't. I'm sure. But I think even from what we know about him, he doesn't. He doesn't care too much about the past. He's somebody who looks to the future. He just thinks it's a waste of time. It's an unproductive way of living, and that is definitely an attitude. I mean, in some ways, it's a very American attitude, and he is, like the
Well,
very
in the right
representation of
cases,
America, which is always to be looking forward, always try to be as positive as possible.
in the right ways, it could be very liberating. I could understand that.
Right, and that's right. It's so I really think he doesn't. I don't
Well,
think
I
he's
mean, George, I mean, what's going? Okay, I don't have any live feed. What's going on in Cairo in front of me? But what is the most germane issue here is Trump himself, because these Arab leaders and Western leaders that I don't know why the Europeans are going, but who cares? They have enough problems at home. They probably want a diversion, but they're going to be saying, because we spoke earlier about any kind of security force coming from Arab Muslim countries.
right.
They want, well, okay, where are the Americans here? Okay, well, and I think that's part of the 200 troops that are being sent.
That's absolutely they're going to.
Absolutely, and
That's what
we want
everybody's
to
going to.
send somebody who's got our back. Okay,
No, absolutely. It's
the
going to be
same
that.
thing applies with this investment, and plus, Qatar says we'll throw in 500 million. Well, that is a pledge.
It's a pledge, but I think
nobody's going to throw around
right,
that kind of money.
right. But I think they will.
Kind of guarantee, that where it's all written down in the black and white, and the lawyers look at it and everything else. Okay, what everybody wants, and that's why I think everyone is shining Trump's shoes, because it's hope that you're going to be persistent in this and you're going to carry it through. Okay, and so they're going there just to reinforce it, to keep keep your attention on this. Here.
That's right. No, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right.
And hopefully, Mr. Trump, there are a lot of voices here, not only one in Tel Aviv.
No, that's it, and that's why I think this is very important that there will be this meeting in Egypt, and Trump is co-chair. In other words, there's another co-chair of that meeting, which is Egypt, and everybody there, at the table. It's going to be a very big table. They will all be saying, absolutely, you brought peace. You're fantastic. Now we need to make this a lasting peace. That's what you were saying in the Knesset. You want this to be a lasting peace. A lasting peace means we have to move toward some kind of Palestinian statehood, Palestinian self-determination, but we will go according to the timetable. You wanted this timetable, which is economic development. All right, let's start with economic development. But if there's going to be economic development first, that's the Trumpian view. Okay, we'll have economic development first. Then you have to guarantee it. You have to then provide some kind of a security to make sure that this doesn't get destroyed all over again. So in other words, you have to absolutely make clear to Netanyahu or anyone in Israel, you cannot attack Gaza anymore, and you're going to make sure that there is going to be this security force, this international security force, that they will not be attacked by Israel. The only way that can happen is if is an American presence there. Because if there's an American presence there, then Israel will back off. I think that's what they're going to tell him. You have to have an American, because if there's no American presence, then absolutely, then Israel will, in a couple of weeks' time,
Yeah.
they're going to start
They bombed Qatar, everyone. Yeah.
exactly. Well, but now that Trump stepped in, issued this guarantee to Qatar, no more attacks, and now Qatar is a player in this. I mean, he's singing the praises of Qatar. Qatar has now become a real player in all of this.
Again, I bring up the question: what's going to happen to the Palestinians? Okay, and having said that, for the second time, is that, and it's something that we should all point out because it's lamentable, is that these Arab monarchies in the Gulf, they want peace. I truly believe that. Okay,
I think so too.
Israel is such a destabilizing country for the region, and and historically they have. I mean, obviously in the last 2 years they've changed their tune rhetorically. They don't really care about the Palestinians. They care about maintaining and preserving their wealth. Okay, and these countries are. You don't really think of what the word democracy and stuff like that, human rights and all of that. It's very, very pragmatic, and that's why I think they're gonna go along with him, with Trump. I mean, if you could, because we want the instability to stop. Okay, what happens to the Palestinian people? Well, that's their fate. Okay, because I think that's their attitude. Okay,
Right. No, but at the same time, they absolutely do have to show that they're not just going to abandon the Palestinian people. I mean, there's
yeah, like rhetorically, they're good at it. They're good at
well,
it.
it's
Okay.
more than rhetorically, because when you think of the Saudi Arabia made clear to Trump, we are not going to join the Abraham Accords unless there is real movement towards a Palestinian state. I mean, that's just
No, they didn't say movement. They said a Palestinian state. Now they may modulate that again.
well,
Okay.
okay, but there has to be. Well, it has to be a serious, not just
Yeah, yeah.
there has to be a
Well,
serious movement towards
it
it.
has never been serious for decades.
Right.
Okay.
No, I think that's right, and that's why I think Saudi Arabia hasn't joined the Abraham Accords. I mean, they haven't. I mean, so so yes, I mean, of course, they don't care that much about the Palestinians. On the other hand, it's still none of these Arab leaders can just simply walk away from the Palestinians. I mean, their fate is
Yeah.
depends on
Well,
there's some kind of there's something is done for them.
yeah.
Um,
These oil-rich monarchies. They are not the stablest of. They're not even nation states.
no,
They're territories run by
I know.
families.
But on the other hand, they can work with Trump because Trump couldn't care less that they're not democracies. I mean, this is
Oh,
that's what I mean.
absolutely.
That's why they talk
saying,
the same language.
I'm echoing you here. Okay, there's no virtue here.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no virtue.
Exactly. I mean, they still remember how when Biden made a huge issue out of Khashoggi, and when Trump said, "Oh, what do I care about
What did
Khashoggi?"
he end up doing? Just like bum fisting him at the. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's something like that. Yeah,
God, what happened to Joe Biden? Oh, I don't care. All right.
that's right.
God, what a waste of 4 years.
It was exactly, yeah, total waste. It's hard to believe, when you think back. Were there really 4 years of Biden? They're just nothing. It was an absolute zero. Anyway, let's just finish off with Trump.
Oh, if we have to. Okay.
Um,
If you must.
if you, all right, let's let's see if this finally.
He's like an MC at a party.
I have an idea.
Oh, this is funny.
President,
Oh, this is the
why
put.
don't you give him a pardon? Give him a pardon.
So this is his alpha move.
I just think this is hilarious. I don't know. Just
There's never been anyone like him, and I doubt there'll never be another one either. You know who else used to talk like this? Chavez used to do this.
Yeah, but the thing is that um, I mean, Israel interferes in an outrageous fashion in American political life.
It's pretty.
I think it's entirely appropriate that an American president say, comes along and says, "You just give him a pardon. For God's sake, what the hell? What are you doing?" And it also, I think, it diminishes Netanyahu. I mean, he's just saying, "Hey,
I don't know.
baby,
Can the president?
he needs to be saved by a pardon."
Does I don't even know if the Israeli president has pardoning power. I don't have
I
no
don't
idea.
know. I don't know. I would imagine. I mean, most places, the head of state has pardon powers. I mean, it's like I mean, it's pretty much
Yeah, I mean,
anywhere.
everyone we've
But
only
I don't know
heard.
whether there may be a procedure to get a pardon.
Most people in the world probably only knew that there was a president of Israel is because of the statements that were made at the beginning of the assault on Gaza, because it's such a meaningless role. Okay,
You're right.
yeah. So I would tend to doubt it, but you're right. Usually, even the nominal head of state has some kind of
But
power.
there always is. There has to be some. You can't. The judges can't be the last word in anything. I mean, there has to be ultimately the head of state has to have the last word. I mean, in Britain as well, the king has the final say in something.
The
So
final word, yeah.
the final. Now, of course, he does it on the recommendation. So it's like back in the days when you used to have the death penalty, and you made a last pitch, not to be hanged. Then
There's a new film out, or at least it's new for me, about the last capital punishment case in the UK. I'm trying to remember the woman's name. Wow, a really good film.
I don't think it was a woman who was.
It was a woman. She was the last person to be executed. Yeah.
Well, because the last
Oh,
woman
yeah,
to
she was the last woman executed, not the
Ruth
last.
Ellis. Ruth Ellis was the last woman to be
Ruth
executed.
Ellis. That's right.
Right, but is a new film about her because there was a
Oh,
film
it's
made about.
really. I mean, the male roles are very, very weak, and maybe that was intentional because it's still kind of in the. It was probably made during the woke era, but the female role was indomitable. It was really,
Right,
really good.
because there was a
Really,
film. Right, there was a film.
it's a wonderful day for a hanging. I think it was called
How's that? Yeah.
a
Right,
wonderful day for a hanging. I think it was the name
right,
of the
right,
film.
right. She was.
Watch it. It's really good.
Well, because as I said, there was a film made about Ruth Ellis in the 1980s. Miranda Richardson played Ruth Ellis, um, and she was the last woman to be hanged. Um, but I mean, if you're going to have capital punishment, then you have capital punishment. You can't discriminate. It's
Well, no,
generally,
that
men commit violent crimes more often than women do. I mean,
yeah.
that's
The point is that watch. I think it's a mini series. It's like maybe 4 or 5 parts, and there's no doubt that she executed her
she killed her. Yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
don't know who's ever been. Yeah,
and very publicly and
right,
with malice. Okay,
right, right.
but the point of the film, and it convinced me, is that things are really complicated.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah,
and really complicated, and so no, she was a murderer. She
yeah, yeah.
self-avowed. I mean, and she did not even attempt to defend herself for the longest time.
Right,
Okay,
right. But of course,
mean,
the
it was a very good timepiece. The production value was very high, which for me is really top on my list. I love high production value. The male actors I thought were a bit.
but there were more egregious cases of the death penalty in Britain. Remember the case of Timothy Evans in the early 1950s. You remember there was a famous film made about that 10 Rillington Place with Richard Attenborough. Basically, Evans, he probably didn't do it, but he was hanged because the guy who did the murders of John Christie. That was a really creepy film. And then there was also the case of Craig and Bentley that was also made into a film, where the guy who was executed was the one who wasn't. He didn't actually pull the trigger. but he said, let him have it. But the guy who pulled the trigger was underage, so he wasn't executed, and he went to prison, and then he was released eventually, and lived to old age. But the one who didn't actually pull the trigger, he was executed. So that was a real cause célèbre, and led to the abolition of the death penalty. Um, um, anyway, so that's the Trump Knesset. Of course, be very interesting what happens in Egypt, because
For me, that's more important.
Right,
Okay, for me, because Trump desperate for a victory lap, particularly in foreign policy, and as George and I have reiterated, we forced the point yesterday. Don't bring up Venezuela, okay? Because his administration is making a separation:
Right.
Ukraine, the Middle East, Iran.
Right.
That's called foreign policy. Venezuela, that's domestic policy.
That's the
and mind your own business.
That's right, exactly. But what I would imagine will happen in Egypt is that everybody around the table, and all the Gulf states will be there, and of course Sisi will be there. Will all insist you have to move towards a two-state solution. There has to be the final settlement of the Palestinian problem. They're going to be unambiguous about it. And Trump now no longer has the October the 7th. Because what about October the 7th? Yeah, we're not talking about October the 7th anymore. The war's over.
Yeah, because the Israelis won.
That's it, exactly. That's it. You said Israelis won, war's over, so there's no need to talk about October the 7th. Now we have to talk about the future. The future is a state for the Palestinians, and he's going to have to. He's going to have to go along with that. He's going to have to go along. I mean, they said, we'll go along with your plans for economic development. Fine, let's have economic development first. Let the Palestinian Authority reform itself, or whatever it is supposed to do. It's part of the 20-point plan. They have to reform, but we have to move towards the two-state solution. Netanyahu isn't going to Egypt. There was some speculation earlier today that he might be going. He decided not to go. No surprise, he decided not to go. And because I think if he'd gone,
I don't think the meeting would happen.
I don't think so.
They're leaders that do not want to have a picture taken of them in the presence of absolutely no way.
Yeah, I think so too. I was surprised there was the talk earlier that he was going to go. Because I first of all, I don't think Netanyahu is going to want to be in the position where he's going to have a room full of people telling him, "Hey, you got to move towards a two-state solution." And what's he going to say? October the 7th. That's it. That argument's gone. So he was never going to put himself into that situation. But this meeting will be about moving towards the two-state solution. And whatever Trump's complaints, he'll say, well, fine. We'll meet you halfway. We'll do with the economic development. Work on economic development, but we have to move towards that two-state solution.
I think, obviously, if we go back to the Arab peace plan of 2002, other people call it the Saudi plan, that was, let's meet halfway.
Right.
And the Israelis said no.
Right.
And the Americans have said no. Okay.
Right.
Here we are in 2025.
Right.
No, I don't think halfway is in their vocabulary.
Right.
The thing is that we George and I discussed when Steve Witkoff was addressing a huge crowd. Was it in Tel Aviv?
It was in the Hostage Square.
Okay, and Netanyahu's name was mentioned, and people overwhelmingly booed it. Okay,
yep.
So the Israeli public hates Netanyahu.
Yep.
Fine, but they don't hate his policies. Okay?
No,
that's pretty much the standard DNA of Israeli politics, is that there will never be a Palestinian state. See, now things are getting, as we would say when I was young, getting icky.
Well, that's the thing, because once other parties get involved in Gaza, then
And
Gaza
this is the internationalization part, which
the
I love.
internationalization, then basically it's no longer in Israel's hands, and because then Israel will have to go against the United States, because he's that's what's the speech. I'm chairman of the board, and these are my friends, and they're going to be investing a lot of money in Gaza, and as chairman of the board, I have to protect my investors. That's what chairman of the board do. I have to protect the investors, and I'm not going to have your helicopter gunships coming along and start shooting people up, because no one's going to be doing any construction work. I mean, if there's any likelihood of getting shot doing it. So in a way, once that happens, then Israel has very limited room to maneuver.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Now, the other thing which I think is worth mentioning, and it was Trump's kind of strange comment during his flight over to Qatar. I mean, to Israel, where he started talking again about these giving these Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. So let's just listen to what Trump said. Um, so, and, yeah, okay.
And we talked about the weapons they need, what kind of weapons. They need Patriots very badly. They'd like to have Tomahawks. That's a step up. They'd like to have Tomahawks. We talked about that. And so we'll see. Well, I don't know. I might have to speak to Russia, to be honest with you, about Tomahawks. Do they want to have Tomahawks going in their direction? I don't think so. I think I might speak to Russia about that, in all fairness. I told that to President Zelensky, because Tomahawks are a new step of aggression.
Another wonder weapon. Yeah.
Sorry?
Another wonder weapon. Here we go.
Another Wunderwaffe.
Very well.
Are you
Okay.
saying that you will speak to Putin first about
And I might
Tomahawks?
talk to him. I might say, look, if this war's not going to get settled, I'm going to send him Tomahawks. I may say that. The Tomahawk is an incredible weapon, very offensive weapon. And honestly, Russia does not need that. They don't need that. Yeah, I might tell them that.
Yeah, they're really big and they're really slow and they're 18 years old. Yeah.
We may not, but we may.
Well, yes. I don't know whether he's going to do that.
But they can
Um,
carry a nuclear warhead. That's what
Right.
makes
Well, that's
different.
that's the thing. And so this was the response from Medvedev. And let me see. This is so here's the this is from Medvedev. This is on Telegram that he sent this. He sent it in Russian, so Trump wouldn't get it straight away. I mean, of course, it'll be translated for him, but it would take a little bit of time. So Trump said that if the Russian president doesn't resolve the Ukrainian conflict, it will end badly for him. He's making this threat for the 101st time. In short, if business peacemaker is referring to Tomahawks, the phrase is incorrect. The delivery of these missiles could end badly for everyone, and most of all for Trump himself. And then it's been stated 100 times in a manner understandable even to the star-spangled man that it's possible to distinguish a nuclear tomahawk from a conventional one in flight. It won't be Bandera's Kiev that launches them, but the United States. Read Trump. And then how to respond to Russia exactly. One can only hope that this is another empty threat prompted by protracted negotiations with a cocaine-addled clown. Like sending nuclear submarines close to Russia. Well, you know how it goes. A submarine surfaces in the steppes of Ukraine. So the
Not very subtle, George.
subtle, yeah, not exactly subtle. Now, the thing is that I don't know whether Trump is going to do this because, I mean, I think that the Tomahawks, I mean, they sea launched missiles, and
They can be launched
they
by
can be
air on
ground, but
ground,
there
but
aren't
they
that
were
many.
designed for sea. Yes.
They're designed, but there aren't that many ground launches around. So the United States would have to transfer the ground launches to
Oh yeah.
Ukraine, which would be a difficult thing to
Oh,
do.
it would stick out like a sore
Right,
thumb
right.
too.
But you know, what I think is, you know, it's very problematic is that. You know, this is the way an American president talks. I mean, you know, oh yeah, well, we'll just give it to Ukraine, and then, you know, how would the Russians like it if, you know, the Tomahawk missiles land Moscow or wherever, and then of course the Russians know and they've said explicitly, hey, this isn't going to be launched by Ukrainians. This is going to be launched by Americans. So my point is that I don't think it's very good. It's not a good look when an American president just simply issues these kinds of threats against Russia. I mean, how would an American president respond if a Russian president said, you know, we're going to give some tomahawks to
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Caracas and see how you like it if Venezuela
who's
launches
going
something.
up the escalation ladder?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
And for the umpteenth time, George and I said this is what was going to happen.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
I
It,
don't think it's going. I don't. I'm not particularly worried about this tomahawk
I
issue.
also have I also have my doubts. On the other hand, you know, we've been down this road before where we, you know, the attackums and the F-16s and all these other kinds of things. At first we said, oh, I don't think it's going to happen. Then it did happen. But what I think is interesting, and I don't know how you would answer that is. Why is Trump doing this? I mean, he doesn't care about Ukraine. I mean, we know he doesn't. He absolutely doesn't care about Ukraine, and we know he doesn't care about Ukraine. Is that he has never set out, we're going to go back to the 1991 borders, the 2014 borders, the 2022 borders. He has never set out any kind of a goal that he has in mind, in the way at least NATO has and Biden did or whatever. So he doesn't care
Well,
what the final
one
settlement
another
is, other than
indication
just bring it to an end.
Another indication that it shows that he doesn't care is juxtapose it to the Trump peace plan. He and his people have bent over backwards to get his friends in the Gulf on board.
Right,
Get the
right,
you know that's
right,
traditional
right,
coalition building. When it
right.
comes to Ukraine, he just scoffs
Yeah,
at the Europeans. He
right,
doesn't take them seriously at all. I just think he may be looking for some kind of historical off ramp.
right.
It's the slow drip, slow drip, slow drip, and then it resolves itself. Okay,
Yeah,
that's an optimistic view. Okay,
yeah. Yes.
it looks to me that Trump long ago decided it isn't worth his effort or time.
Well, it isn't. In which case, then the question arises: why doesn't he then end this? I mean, why, you know, why does
He
he just
doesn't want to be the
terminate
guy
it?
that lost Ukraine. That's it. He wants the Europeans to lose Ukraine. That's his gam. That's his segue. Well, we would sell anything the Europeans wanted if they wanted to give it to Ukraine. We were there. I've said it openly over and over again. You want to buy in? Okay,
Right, right.
maybe,
But
maybe tomahawks. I'd have to think about it. Have to talk to the guys over at the Pentagon. He doesn't want to say people to say Trump lost Ukraine, and that is a pattern in American
well,
politics.
that's he doesn't want that. But then it just the war goes on. I mean, in other words,
Yeah,
the war
I
goes
mean,
on.
he's not going to be the guy that won the Ukraine war. He wants to avoid it being
He
such
wants to,
a
but
loss.
nonetheless, he's somebody who, I mean, this his selling point now is he's a peacemaker. That's his thing. He's his thing, bringing peace. And even in this
Who
speech
would
in
have
the
thought?
Knesset,
Who would have thought,
exactly,
George?
even that speech in the Knesset, he several times came back to the issue of Russia, and he said, "Yeah, we got to get that one settled. We'll settle it. We'll settle it." But the more you talk like this, with with tomahawks and escalation, the further away. as any possibility of a settlement. And then you got it just will just drag on and on. Now maybe he thinks that, well, at least if I've got the Middle East um, you know resolved and done away with, at least for some time, then the pressure on me to do something about Ukraine will lessen. People won't be going on about Ukraine, and then I can just sort of focus on other things. But he's certainly doing nothing to to bring this war in Ukraine to an end. And what
No,
he's
it's
everything he's
just
doing
the
is in fact the
opposite.
reverse. Yeah,
Just
that's,
the
that's right.
opposite. I mean, the Ukraine's infrastructure is just being um, uh, systematically destroyed. I mean, its energy capacity is down dramatically over the last few days. Its rail connections have been targeted. This is, you know, people focus all the time on the front, and George and I have talked endlessly about it. But making Ukraine a dysfunctional state, it's happening slowly but surely. It's
Mhm.
happening.
Right.
But unlike everybody else, and some places, we're not saying in 3 weeks.
Yeah,
We
exactly. Through. Yeah, that's right.
never
Yeah.
say that. We never say that.
No, no, that's right. Um, um, but this is the thing with Trump. I mean, when he came to, um, I mean, you kind of wonder though whether I mean he came up finally with this 20-point plan with the Middle East. Is it conceivable? Could he come up with a 20-point plan, something equivalent to a 20-point plan on Ukraine?
I don't think so because Jared Kushner was involved in that. He's not interested in Ukraine.
No,
Okay,
no.
there's no real beach in Ukraine. Okay,
I mean, I kind of want to. I mean, in terms of Russia and Ukraine, he doesn't really have anyone around him who could formulate something like, well, this could be the basis of a settlement. There
well,
isn't really,
look,
other than a kind of, oh well, let's have a ceasefire. He really hasn't come up with any kind of a peace
well,
plan.
it's one of the things that I experienced. I saw with my own eyes is that when the Soviet Union came to the end, investment in Russian studies just disappeared.
Right,
Actually, a little bit of it went to Ukraine. Okay, at
right,
Harvard,
right.
the Davis operation, but Middle East people lobbying for Israel is
Yeah, yeah,
around here
yeah.
24/7, all of the time. You Russia no. Okay. And I think that is one of the predicates of the misstep known as the Ukraine project. I mean, they just simply didn't know what they were dealing with, and
Right,
they miscalculated over and over and over again, and doubled down on mistakes made. Okay,
right.
that would never happen in the Middle East. No
No,
way. There's too much
that's right.
money.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a very interesting though. But yes, I mean, but the U.S. policymaking elite has a deep animus toward Russia. I mean, it's throughout. I mean,
It's
and
their DNA. It's their
it's in
DNA.
their DNA, and they've absolutely ignored anyone with any kind of academic background. I mean, you don't get anyone. I mean, Keir Starmer is not going to call in well, the name of our friend, that academic in the UK who writes about Ukraine.
Oh yeah, well, he did this to me again.
It was always
Sakwa.
Richard Sakwa. He's not going to say, "Well, yeah, come to 10 Downing Street and give us a briefing on Ukraine." I mean, it just wouldn't happen.
Nikolai Petro, he's over
Nikolai
here.
Petra, exactly. Give me a briefing on the war. It just doesn't happen. It all becomes this the policy making elite. Yet, curiously enough, Trump, again, because of his business background, doesn't have any of that animus. I really think that he genuinely wants good relations with Russia. I think he genuinely rather likes Putin. He's just very annoyed that he can't bring this.
He can't get his way.
He can't get his way, exactly, because he somehow thought that using his charm and his persuasive powers, he was going to bring it to an end. I mean, it's like he keeps saying, "I thought this was going to be the easiest of the wars to settle. It's turned out to be the hardest." I mean, you think, why would you think that this was going to
And
be?
he's a white guy like me. Why can't we get this
Yeah,
taken care
yeah,
of?
exactly. We get on well. Every time we meet, we have a great friendly banter. Um, but that's the thing. But if you were Trump, you'd have to go outside your policymaking bubble, and then you'd have to have somebody there.
Well, I mean, he did. He had Steve Witkoff, but Steve Witkoff was the wrong guy.
Right, he was the wrong guy. But what
The
happened
wrong
to
guy.
why? What happened to? I mean, McGregor served in a limited
Yeah, well,
capacity.
what's going on between McGregor and Trump, I don't know if we can even speculate there, but it's not good. Okay,
Yes. No,
it's not.
I think I said, but McGregor did serve in the first term.
Look. I mean, he's an elderly man, but he has his faculties. I mean, talk about sharp as a tack.
Right.
Chas Friedman. Well, why don't you just put him in the Blair House?
Right.
Give him a
Right.
go to spa every day,
Right.
whatever you want.
Right.
The bar will be full.
Right.
And just have him cover. I think there's a tunnel underneath. And just have him, with a golf cart, bring him
Right.
over to the White House, and I mean, he'll give you cold turkey. And
Right.
he's not afraid of Trump. He's not afraid of anybody.
No.
Okay?
No, no.
He was Nixon's translator when Nixon went to China. And then he was an ambassador to Saudi Arabia. They didn't like him. You know why, George? Because he spoke Arabic. He actually talked to people. Oh, you're not supposed to talk to the people. You're supposed to go to the parties with the royal family. Okay? Yeah. Ray McGovern also.
Right. That's right. But I kind of wonder. I mean, whether
I don't ignore Stephen at all. Why would you say that? Why would you say that? Why would you say that?
Stephen Kotkin.
I don't ignore him. Why would anyone ever say that?
No, you've never said anything. We've never. I don't think we've ever talked about Stephen Kotkin. Well, but the question is, you have to somehow bring such a person to Trump's attention. Now, Steve Bannon could do that, but I haven't seen Steve Bannon bring.
Steve
up
Bannon
like
could
that.
be the gateway.
Right.
If you said to Trump, talk to this guy,
Exactly. Right. Exactly. And Bannon does have Trump's ear. Bannon does have academic, intellectual interest. That would certainly be a way to get to Trump. But you'd have to actually get, Bannon.
We're rapidly running out of time. I want to get your take about this Qatari base in Iowa.
Yes, that's an interesting one. I think it's all part of just Americans training Qataris. I mean, I think
it's not a big deal. Everyone.
No, I don't
they
think
do
so.
it
No.
for Germany. They do it for a number of countries around the world. I don't know why Laura Loomer and all these other nutcases. Their hair is on fire. It's all over Twitter. God. But they're just sucking the oxygen out of the room.
But you see, that's very interesting what you said, because what Laura Loomer and Barry Weiss and the rest of that crowd, that the Israel First crowd, horrible people, what they're trying to claim is that Qatar has this massive influence on American public life. It's everywhere. It has its tentacles everywhere.
But not Israel.
Right? Not Israel, exactly. That and Barry Weiss, you can actually see, she does these podcasts. Oh, no, Qatar. That you can't, swing a cat without coming across some Qatar lobbies. But of course, all of that is total nonsense, because basically, you have Qatar, which invests in American universities, but that means American universities have campuses in Qatar. So you can say, yeah, okay, there's money there. No one says Qatar doesn't invest. The issue is lobbying. And that's that's where Israel devotes its funds.
Given the appearances of experts on Al Jazeera, there are more professors per capita in Qatar than any other country in the world.
That's right. Yeah, and that's right. And they have their campuses. They build campuses.
So the Qataris are buying influence. Everybody buys influence, and the Israelis are the best at it. Okay,
but they don't. Qatar doesn't do what Israel does. Israel buys up politicians. The entirety of Congress.
we never talk about the congresswoman from Qatar.
Exactly.
We don't talk about Qatari occupied territory. No,
that's right. But that's what, particularly Laura Loomer, that was and of course. Tel Aviv Levin, they're all constantly by Tucker Carlson. I think they call him Katalson, Katalson, suggesting he gets money from Qatar. He doesn't get money from Qatar. So that was.
I'm so happy watching the the America Firsters pushing out these Israeli Firsters.
Yeah.
It's just a marvel to watch. Okay,
That's right. That's
marvel.
right. That's right. All right, Peter. I think our time is up. So thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for all of your comments. I didn't see on the.
We did a good job. I mean, if you want to hear two people agreeing all the time, go somewhere else. Because I don't do that. I don't try to make George happy, and George certainly doesn't try to make me happy. We're interested in the argument, nothing
Exactly.
more.
Exactly. It's
We're
entirely
getting
about
$7,000 a post. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's entirely about arguments.
If you want to start offering, we can talk.
Yeah, exactly. Buddy, 7,000. You know, his eyes. You know,
They're asking about this. You know.
Yeah. Count. Include me in 7,000 per post. Yeah, I'll do the posts. All right. Thank you, everybody who joined us. We will be back together same time next Monday. And then, of course, on Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, I do my solo. Hope to see you all then. Until then, all the best. Bye-bye.